I'm under no illusion that illegal immigration has probably been a factor behind the scenes across the globe for many a year. But I think it's safe to assume that in light of the so-called refugee crisis, and now known as the migrant crisis, we've seen an exponential amount of bandwagon jumpers that seem to have taken it upon themselves to pretend to be Syrian, or they used to do that anyway, and just go through the same process that you would assume a refugee would undertake. And the way that the media talk about it and the way that the politicians dance around the blatant problem, it's beyond stupendous, and it's boring at this point. How they go into such mass panic and investigations get done, and Javid comes out, and whoever it may be will come out to acknowledge the fact that it's happening, but they never tell them to stop coming. They never punish any that get here, and they talk about these people as if this is normal. People climbing in the back of lorries to enter the UK illegally should be fucking punished, and I'm sorry if that sounds callous in any way, but quite frankly, it's just unbearable how watered down and how accustomed people have become to this narrative that I have spent the best part of 3 or 4 years picking apart to the best of my ability. And some of these articles that I've got up here, I'm just reading through them to get a wee recap of what's been happening the last week, and I mean, it's just a fucking joke. So this is the first one. Channel migrants, lorries still favoured route, border officers say. I mean, that's great. That's good to know. They're acknowledging that they're preferring to take lorries instead of boats, but they're not doing anything to stop these migrants getting in the back of lorries. Yes, granted, if they catch them, they fucking send them back, whatever they do, but they're not discouraging them. They're just they're putting measures in place on the off chance that they come across these people. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm pretty sure that's the wrong way to go about something if you really were all about trying to stop them coming here in the first place. But of course, if you were trying to stop them coming here in the first place, you would warn them, threaten them, discourage them, or even punish them. But no. Can't have that. So we've got here 6 suspected migrants filmed climbing out the back of a lorry were detained in Upminster on Friday. A major incident was declared after 129 people entered by boat in December illegally. Sajid Javid vowed to redeploy 2 border force vessels from the Mediterranean, and the Royal Navy sent HMS Mersey to patrol the channel. The numbers coming over in small boats are only a small proportion compared to the number crossing in lorries. There is a lot of focus on small boats, but the day-to-day grind is still the lorries. And why do these people feel that they can do this? What gave these people the notion one day to up sticks and leave where they lived and decide to traverse Europe and come over to Calais to try their hand at entering the UK illegally? Could it be possibly that they've been incentivized and encouraged? Because I'll tell you one thing for nothing, they haven't been discouraged. They haven't been put off at all. Oh no, it seems to me that these people know full well that if they manage to get into the UK, there is a good chance that they'll be able to stay. The so-called lorry drops where migrants get out of an HGV after arriving in the UK is not known. More than 1,800 people were apprehended after making clandestine entries into the country through South Coast ports in 2017/18. HGV driver Sam Hollamby filmed 8 men leaving a lorry after it stopped near the Deptford crossing on Friday. I saw a duvet being held out the side, I assumed trying to catch the driver's attention. Then they started chucking glass bottles. The Met Police detained 6 men at around 2:30. The men were transferred to Home Office immigration officers, and the rest is unknown from there. I mean, we might get a little story cropping out of the woodwork at some point to tell us that they've been sent back to France, but at the end of the day, they're just going to come back over, aren't they? So, might as well just let them stay. Or you could punish them, but of course they won't do that. So instead of standing there in your podium or coming out to the paper to acknowledge that this is a problem, why don't you do something about it? Why are they wasting money on fucking boats floating about that are supposedly there to deter them from entering the UK illegally, when realistically all that seems to be happening is when they get spotted, they get taken to either the UK or back to France, depending on how far they are across the channel. Why don't you do something about it? Like, I don't know, come out and say stop coming, threaten them, as I said, punish them even if you have to, because they've got no right to be here, and I don't care if they really have a refugee claim, because at the end of the day, when they've rocked across the Mediterranean and then they've crossed country after country after country, after about 2 or 3 countries, it's safe to assume that these people are not refugees any longer, even if they think that they are themselves. They're not. They're not. This whole facade is just beyond bearable at this point. How the media, the politicians, they really do think that the British public are absolutely stupid. And I mean, even if you can see it for what it is, the politicians think that you can't. And that's truly an insult, if I'm honest. That's good of you to acknowledge that it's a major incident. And what do you think's going to happen as a result of him saying this? You're just going to have the Kent activists and Novara Media and The Guardian spending the next week whining about how he had the audacity to claim it as a major incident. But at the end of the day, if he really thought it was a major incident, then he'd be doing something to stop it instead of acknowledging that it's a problem. There's no point acknowledging the fucking problem if you're not going to do anything to stop the problem. You're actively encouraging them without, well, not in so many words, that it's the next best thing. Most recently, 12 people were detained in Dover. Officials on both sides of the channel have warned of the dangers of crossing what is the world's busiest shipping lane in a small boat. Police have likened the journey to trying to cross the N25 at rush hour on foot. In a statement, the Home Office said Mr. Javid had taken control of the response to the situation. He had been appointed GO Commander, meaning he has ultimate responsibility for the handling and outcome of the incident and sets out a strategy of how to deal with it. Tell them to stop coming and then you wouldn't have this problem, buddy. He will now receive daily updates from the Home Office and has spoken to Border Force officials, immigration enforcement and the National Crime Agency in a conference call. Oh, this conference call. Oh, I wonder what that was about. More theatrical bullshit, just like the bureaucrats with their crunch talks that they were doing for the last 2 or 3 years. And what did they do at the end of all of that? All those years they said they were going to stop the migrant crisis. What did they do? They unveiled the Migration Compact. Oh yeah, so anybody that thinks that these so-called fucking urgent calls are of any importance, pull the other one. He also commissioned details or options from Border Force about the provision of additional vessels in the channel, including another Border Force cutter, and whether this is likely to encourage more people to try and make the crossing rather than act as a deterrent. It doesn't matter if there's a boat there or not, they continue to do what they're doing until somebody puts a stop to it. It's not like you're putting these boats into the ocean or the sea to make these people think twice. Oh no, because they know that if you spot them on their fucking dinghy, you have to pick them up. And then they don't get punished for it. So really, there's no loss for them. It's a win-win all round. Because they'll take a gamble. They might get into Britain. They might not. But it doesn't matter. They get to stay in France. At the end of the day, France isn't that bad of a country. So, hey-ho. It's not like they're going to get booted right back to where they came from, which is what I would be doing if I was in charge. But, we can't be having someone like me in the office, can we? Bridget Chapman, the asshole that was on Good Morning Britain, that fucking asshole who dodges questions about the Geneva Convention because they completely destroy her own narrative. From the charity Kent refugee get grip. So the situation was in part a result of UK measures to beef up the security around Calais. And why did they need to beef up security around Calais? Because there's a bunch of African men standing there waiting to climb on lorries to come over here illegally. So instead of salivating at the prospect of having all that African young bloods over here, why don't you acknowledge that they shouldn't be there and they shouldn't be here? We've got a big fence up to prevent people from accessing trains and lorries, and people are resorting to other methods to get here. It's winter, but the weather has been quite good, and I expect people traffickers are exploiting people now. Are exploiting people, saying, you know, things are going to tighten up after Brexit. You need to go now. What a load of bullshit. And even if you did think that that was the case, you've just come out into the media and you've repeated the same statement, therefore bringing that statement to light again, bringing attention to that statement yet again. So if it is true, you know exactly what you're doing when you say what you say. Many of the migrants are Iranian or Syrian. No, Syrian, I mean, they're a thing of the past, are they not? Because all I ever seem to see is Gambians and Eritreans and Somalians. And the odd Iranian, granted, but the majority of them are African, so let's not pretend that they're all fucking Arabic Muslims. More than 5 million Syrians have left their country since the civil war started, and in the past 2 years, Iranian citizens have made more UK asylum applications than any other nationality, according to Home Office figures. Investigation found that people smugglers were telling migrants that they must enter before the borders shut properly after Brexit, and here they go again, because then they come out and they tell you that that's not going to be the case. It's silly, which is it's basically subtly telling you that this is going to continue after Brexit anyway. You know, the way that they go on about it, this fucking random ass narrative that apparently that migrants aren't going to be able to traverse the English coast after Brexit, and then they keep coming out and correcting that. They keep coming out and saying things along the lines of that Brexit will have no effect on what these people plan to do, which basically is telling the public, in so many words, that this is going to continue. Wow. If people are in danger of their lives, then they need to be saved. But they wouldn't be in danger of their lives if they weren't on a dinghy in the water. So what better way to stop people from drowning, then would it not be to make sure that they don't decide to take it upon themselves to cross the water in the first place? But instead of that, this fucking narrative will have people think that the best course of action is to wait for on the off chance that they see a dinghy on the horizon, then they go out and get them as quick as possible because we don't want them drowning. When the reality of the matter is, you would stop them entering the sea in the first place instead of this absolute gaff that we have to endure. It's painful how stupid they think we fucking are. I mean, wow. Yes, the people found off the Kent coast, and it goes into all these details about all these illegal fucking migrants. Has to be said, you don't think it's a bit funny how since this UN migration compact's been signed, all of a sudden miraculously there's just this steady flow of migrants trickling over the water into the UK. And Sajid Javid, he's on it. Oh yeah, Jesus. I'll leave on this. Wait till I find it.
Thus concludes the last sequence in showing you the mechanics of one attempted crossing. The key question now, of course, is why does any of this actually matter? It matters because this freelance business model makes it difficult for the police to catch people.
Yes, that's right. So when this continues on, you heard it here first from Channel 4. Oh, why are the migrants still coming over here and they're not being caught? Oh, it's because apparently it's difficult to police the situation. What a cop-out. Well, if that is the case, instead of wasting resources, wasting time, wasting energy, why don't you tell them to stop coming? Why don't you threaten them? Why don't you do something other than acknowledge that it's a fucking problem and then put things in place on the off chance you find them? Why don't you stop them coming over in the first place? Why do I have to repeat myself about this fucking stupid narrative, man? It really boils my... What an absolute joke.
It matters because this freelance business model makes it difficult for the police to catch people. The nightly beach patrol with the gendarmes along the French coast. Evidence of departures and of locals battening down the hatches. How many migrants have you found in the last 6 months along that stretch?
Je n'ai pas la comptabilité exacte en fait, mais...
So matter-of-factly tell you that there's a bunch of migrants that are all waiting patiently to come over to the UK. And instead of doing anything about it, no, we've got Channel 4 making stupendous fucking documentaries or investigations into how the migrants managed to come across their dinghy. I mean, just get real, man. The invisible smugglers that do not exist A bunch of migrants from countries that do not give them the right to claim asylum status, and of course they all have their GPS coordinate phones and satellite phones on tow to be picked up by the conveniently placed Mediterranean coast guards and NGOs and charities. Then you've got the assholes like that Kent Brigade sitting there encouraging them from the sidelines, and all the while Sajid Javid and the crew do nothing but pretend that they're doing something about the problem when they're not doing anything about the problem, and their efforts to prevent it do nothing but incentivize. Anyway, this video's too long. Just fucking sick of this narrative, man. It's so bullshit. Peace.